Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Savage Goose Show. I'm Goose, and you're watching the Savage Goose. Tonight, we're going to talk about all things Savage Worlds in the past week, go over the newsletter, and then we're going to talk about a topic that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and that's in regards to I kind of went in a few different directions here with this one, but basically, it's going to be around how we reward players as game masters in Savage Worlds, how players are rewarded for things, and how we can kind of make sure that we can keep the game flowing and keeping our players engaged, motivated, and curious. So we're going to be talking about that. But first, we're going to talk about, as I said, we're going to talk about the newsletter from the past for this past week. It has been a couple of weeks since I've streamed it. I missed the past 2 weeks because I was on vacation. So thanks for bearing with me. And I don't, based on what I saw in the newsletters, I don't think I missed a whole lot. But there's a few things in this week's newsletter that we can talk about. So let's go ahead and just kind of jump into that. One of the things I am realizing though is that I am using 2 different browsers at the same time, which is going to cause a few issues. So let's go ahead and fix that. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and just try and dive in here. So the first thing, I'll make this a little bit different. There we go. Here's the Pinnacle newsletter for today. Big news is that the Pine Box Middle School Kickstarter, or sorry, the Pine Box Middle School setting for Savage Worlds, it has a ENnie award, or a nomination for an ENnie at least, for one of the best family games or products. Which is I don't know if I would have initially said family, but I guess it makes sense that you are playing as kids on bikes, so there's probably going to be some elements of family there. I haven't. This is one product I have not gone through and gotten yet from Pinnacle, but it's one I really want to get. I think at the time I was just kind of a little bit low on funds, but this is one of the ones I do want to get this because one of my favorite movies of all time is Super 8, which is I think like one of the quintessential kids on bikes movies that you can see. That and Goonies. I guess Goonies is probably more of a kids on quintessential one, but still, I really enjoy Super 8, and it's given me a lot of inspiration for doing this kind of game. So I would love to get my hands on this eventually, whenever I get through all my other games, the Savage Worlds I need to get through. But because of this nomination, if you use the discount code PBMSENNIES, so Pine Box Middle School PBMS ENnies 2024, you can get 20% off both the print and PDF versions of all Pine Box School, East Texas University, and Classic Pine Box Texas products from 12 to midnight. So go check that out if you're interested in that. This is a good code, a good time to kind of get in on get a little discount. I might use that discount myself to get this as well. The open votings for ENnies will start this Friday, July 12th, and run through the 21st. And the winners will be announced on August 2nd at the Gen Con in Indy. So if you're going to Gen Con, look around for that, and go ahead and go over to ENnies to kind of make your vote, cast your vote for whatever product you want. Savage Worlds is Foundry VTT V12 ready. So I guess there's a new version of Foundry, and I don't really follow Foundry a whole lot. I don't really use a VTT. Except for when I do, I tend to use Albert Rodeo just because it's a simple one that doesn't really, I don't really have to do much. I just kind of plop in my map, and that's pretty much about it. So, but if you do use Foundry VTT, the developers have rolled out a version of Savage Worlds that's now fully compatible with Foundry version 12. So make sure you got that update version and go check that out. If you are going to Gen Con, which is considered the tagline is the best 4 4 days in gaming, and you want to see Pinnacle, go ahead and go over and see what's going on. There's going to be about 30 1-hour Deadlands Dark Ages test drive events, which I think is, I'm not sure if it's using the same adventure that was already released for it. I will say that at 1 hour seems not like a whole lot, so I'm a little surprised it's only 1 hour. But Deadlands Dark Ages is a setting that I've been looking forward to for basically since SWADE was first announced back, I can't remember how many years ago it was. I'm guessing like, I want to say it was like 5 or 6 years ago, probably 6 years ago now, because we had the 5-year anniversary. So yeah, we'll go 6. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Additionally, if you want to go to the What's Up with Pinnacle panel, there's going to be that on Saturday at 5 p.m. I would love to be there, but I cannot. So please let me know, everybody, what happens at that panel. If you can somehow get me a recording of it, if it's going to be a live streamed at Pinnacle, if anyone from Pinnacle is watching, please, if you see a way to live stream it, maybe on like SWADE Universe or something like that, just so we can kind of see what's going on. We want to hear the news as well. Or at the very least, can you at least tell us like all the news you announced afterwards, or like you post a video recording of it afterwards? That would be awesome. All right, and then the Dragon Chair backer kit is now open. If you guys know Clint and Jody Black, yeah, sorry, kind of, yeah, Jody and Clint Black run Carolina Game Tables, and they are doing their backer kit with their premium Game Masters Dragon Chair. Also, these are very, very premium chairs. So like this is not, some like chair that you can go to even like one of your like discount furniture stores or any sort and just pick up. No, these are very extremely nice chairs, and therefore because of that they do match the price, but they are very nice chairs. I don't play a game on myself because I can't afford it, but for those of you out there who can, check it out. It looks like these look like very nice chairs. The SWADE Universe stream is getting together with Ben Burns from New Comic Games to talk about Zeta Complex, which is this dark humor game for Savage Worlds. I haven't been able to get kind of dig too much into this because I can't say I've heard about this or New Comic Games at all until this moment. So or until I kind of read through this email. So I read a little bit about it, but not too much. So. But go check out that on Thursday at 7 p.m. I unfortunately will not be able to be there. Well, fortunately, it's because I'll be at my regular Savage Worlds game. So that'll be fun. But I'll miss on this. I'll have to watch it later. For licensee spotlight, Audio RPG, they did a Kickstarter a while ago. I want to say it was out last year for the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition core rulebook as an audiobook. If you go to Audio RPG and go to their website, you can currently buy the audiobook version of the RPG core rulebook rules for $20. This is something I wasn't initially. I did not back it. I am probably going to buy a copy of the MP3s at least to download myself and listen to, because I think that's going to be a really nice way for me to kind of make sure that I'm constantly kind of informed on like remembering all the rules and stuff. But they're also doing it for Holler, and they're currently kickstarting that, which I'll kind of go over a little bit more in the Kickstarter. But they are kickstarting the Holler as a audio RPG. They've already done a few other ones, such as, let me see if I can find where I put that. I can figure out where I put it. There we go. They got a few other ones, at least on their catalog. I'm not sure if that's like coming. Yeah, some of them are coming soon, but they have like certain Deadlands as coming soon. They have Rifts coming soon. They've already done Traveler and Space 1889. So check out Audio RPG. I think it's a really cool concept that they're just doing audiobooks of the RPGs. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that. And I haven't decided if I'm going to do the one for Holler yet, just because I don't plan on playing Holler for some time, just because we have a lot of other things kind of at our plate. I want to play it, don't get me wrong, really want to play Holler, but we just got a lot on our plate to try to get it through before we can start playing Holler. I know it's somewhere in the queue. I'm not sure where exactly in the queue it is, but we'll talk more about the Holler one in a moment when we get to that section. There we go. Also, Spotlight is the Tome of Monsters for Savage Worlds from BPB Games. This is also another Kickstarter that also I'm going to go over in our Kickstarter section. But basically, this just provides a bunch of monsters that have like unique abilities that maybe you haven't seen before. Focus around horror monsters that you can kind of see in your horror settings, and take a look at that. So actually, let's go ahead and just jump over to them. I'm going to go ahead and just pull up. I'll start with the Holler one because we have our crowdfunding updates here, and that's just the updates from our Kickstarters. So let me go ahead and share this tab, make sure everything looks good to you guys. Nope, it's not. Okay, let's make that a little bit better. There we go. So here's the Holler Kickstarter. Already backed. They pretty much have this all done and ready. And you can kind of listen to an audio sample of what it sounds like, and kind of like see some of the different art and stuff. There is a physical fulfillment to some of these. So you can get just the audiobook for $23, but you can also get the setting book and the audiobook as a bundle, and that's only $25. The one thing I noticed about these Kickstarters last time is that it was absolutely worth it if you wanted the book to get the book and the audiobook as a bundle. Now this one is it's a digital bundle, so this is the PDF version, but still worth it. And if you want the setting book and the complete bundle, so you get the PDF, the print book, and the audiobook, you get that for $49. I think that is probably the best way to get all of this, because you're getting extra stuff including that. There's even one for the box set on top of the audiobook. And then what's the other one? Complete. There's a lot of options here that are really good options, even just for getting the physical books, and then you just get the audio book on top of it. So if you're interested in getting the physical book, you might as well do this and get the audiobook on top of it. That's kind of like almost like a little bit of a bonus. So take a look at that. And then the other one was the Tome of Monsters, as you can see here. Just a really cool, little black and white book of different monsters that you can put into your games. There are some examples here. Definitely going for a strong horror vibe. So that's the kind of game you're into. Definitely go check that out. We're kind of playing in a horror vibe game right now. I'm not sure how far it's going to go. Mostly just dealing with a haunted house situation, but it's been a lot of fun to play so far. So hopefully that goes well. The only other news I wanted to share was kind of going over a few things that I missed the past few weeks that I wanted to talk about. The first thing is, I'm going to share this tab, the Sleuth Squad, which is a swag product that was it's one of the best swag products I've seen in the past couple of years. And it currently is now available in softcover color. So if you want to get a print version of this book, you can now get that. And it's currently on sale for $25. So definitely go check that out. There were two of these from City Guard Chronicles. They are small case files. They're basically just one-page sheets. You can pretty much just get them if you go through the preview. I think they even say if you just do the preview, you can get it for free. But if you want to support them a little bit, it's 50 cents to get this one sheet. Help support them a little bit. And I really enjoy the City Guard Chronicles adventures. My plan is I have all three of them now. I'm gonna get these two. You got the small cases, Cat in the Rat, and then you also have the bank negotiations. What I plan on doing is honestly just taking every single piece of the Chronicles and probably just putting it into my own binder specific for that, because I feel like they're really good games for just one shots. I've ran one so far with a bunch of people, a couple of whom were brand new to Savage Worlds. One of them which was brand new to any tabletop RPG, and it was did a really good job of kind of giving the players an obvious reason to do this. It's their job. They are the city guard. They must do this. They are part of the same squad. They have a reason to work together, and it comes with pre-generated characters that you can use as well and kind of do whatever you want with them. So I really enjoy these. I recommend I'm going to check these out as well. It's just quick one sheet so that you can kind of just have a quick adventure without having the full detailed ones. All right. So with that, let me make sure before we kind of dive into things, so no one else in the chat is talking about anything. Yeah, for some reason, I'm not always seeing my comments from coming up in my streaming software. So I have to go over to my chat inside YouTube just kind of see what's going on here. Okay. More vibes. All right, cool. Well, I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anything too extreme. I did see Tyler Childers in the chat talking about some other awards, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So let me go and get some of this stuff cleaned up here, and we can start talking about player awards inside Savage Worlds. Okay. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties here, so give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so as a GM, you probably are used to seeing, or at least on the internet, if not at your own group or at your own table, players not be motivated, not be engaged, and not just being curious about what's going on in the game. You put this little clue in there or a little tidbit of information and no one chases after it. No one kind of seeks out more information, or there's just a room and you kind of describe it, and no one really engages with the room, and you can't even tell if they're engaging with the game. And so, what do we do about that? Well, one of the ways that we kind of try to encourage people to stay in the game is to reward them with stuff. In other systems, they do it in different ways. In D&D, you have in-game ways to reward, is like magic items and gold. Even though 5e and I think 4e as well didn't really, that wasn't very enticing to people. That's one of the things we need to talk about is what do we use to entice people. But they also had out of game stuff like experience to encourage players to want to gather that so they can level up and get new abilities. And other systems do various things like that as well. There's different ways to encourage players. Now, recently I watched a video by Matthew Colville, who is he goes by like MCDM. He's a dungeon master. He does a lot of 5e stuff, and does a lot of puts out some books. But he did a video a while back. I don't remember exactly how long ago, about player rewards, and he said this: the behavior the game rewards is the behavior the game encourages. That was like the first thing he said in that video, and that is I think a really strong start to starting a video, but it definitely informs and GMs on how they want to reward players, because it gives them a little bit of control over kind of helping players know what this game is about. Now, when we play Savage Worlds with a bunch of different genres, different settings, and different styles of play. But we all use the same rules. And there's some things inside Savage Worlds that we can clearly use to reward our players. The most obvious thing that we use is bennies. The bennies are an iconic piece of Savage Worlds. They are a thing that is kind of like one of the pinnacle things about Savage Worlds, because they allow, not only do they are they given as rewards, they also allow players to do cool things. They allow them to make rerolls. They allow them to redraw action cards to get a better one, to go sooner in initiative. They let them be spent to get more power points, to become stronger. They let them use those bennies to maybe spend to the GM and try to convince them to make a small narrative change to the game so they can have an impact on the story even outside of their character. And so these bennies have been a very strong tool in Savage Worlds to encourage players. But at the same time, we have to be cautious about, and in some ways, people are going to say, no, you don't have to be cautious about this. But I think there's an element what you do have to be cautious about giving away too many, to the point where they become a default to players, where they're just they're just always going to spend them, and that's fine. But also, I think there's a tendency, at least some of my players I've seen, where I don't really care about bennies because I'm going to lose them at the end of the game. I'm going to lose them at the end of the session, and getting awarded for these. And while maybe initially cool, eventually, if you do it too often, it can become kind of jading to players to be like throughout the game, like, oh yeah, here's a bang for that, here's a bang for that, here's a bang for that. Again, I think most time that's not an option, not a problem. In fact, I rarely think it's a problem. But if you have a problem with players staying engaged and you can't just keep buying them off with bennies, what else can we do? What else can we reward players with? Like D&D, we can reward players with cool gear, cool magic items. But I think that's not necessarily a thing that Savage Worlds kind of encourages a lot either, is the giving of magic items. We have some magic items, especially in fantasy games, but what about other games that don't have magic, who don't have fantasy items? We can give them cool items, but if it's like a more normal setting, what can we do? What are the options that we have to reward players for things that we want them to be doing? So if we're in a game and they're engaging with a NPC in role playing, how can we award that player in other ways? Or maybe they just have a good session overall. What can we do to reward players for engaging the game and keeping it moving? Last thing we want in Savage Worlds, which is supposed to be a fast, furious, and fun game, is then slowing down, not engaging, not being motivated, and not being curious about the story. We don't want this slow pace. This is a pulp game full of high action, a lot of movement, a lot of tension, and that it just keeps on going. How can we encourage players to add in their own elements to kind of keep that going? There's a tendency I think we see a lot of times is that the GM has to be able to keep attention. The GM needs to keep putting things out there. And there's a lot of that that's true. The GM has a lot of responsibility to make sure the game keeps moving, to make sure there's tension, to make sure that there's things that are interesting and keeping the players engaged. But there's also an element which this is a shared story experience, and the players need to offer ups and stuff as well. It's not just you come and the GM entertains you. The GM needs to have fun too, right? So what are some other things that we can do to encourage players to be engaging in the game? Well, Matt Colville talked about some other things that he's seen in the past as well, and how different games, again, the behavior of the game, rewards, the behavior of the game encourages. So, obviously, with bennies, we also want to be encouraging our players with bennies for the right kind of actions. That's good. That's perfect. We also want them to play up their hindrances. That's good. Give them bennies for that. We want them to try to do cool things. Good. Give them bennies for that. What other options do we have? Is there any other way that we can do that? Well, for really big events, one of the things that we have to our disposal as Savage Worlds GMs is conviction. If you're using the conviction setting rule, which, if I'm honest, I think you should probably just always use conviction setting rule. I've been hesitant before, but almost every game I've played in has been using the conviction setting rule, and I think it's a cool setting rule to kind of give your players an extra reward that carries over from session to session. Unlike bennies, which we reward, conviction can be used and kept from session to session. I think that's really important for players to feel more rewarded for doing something cool and exciting. Again, because of how powerful those are, you do want to make sure you're limiting those. And most of the time when I see conviction used and given out, they're only being given out like, once every maybe 3-4 sessions, depending on how long your sessions are. And we're going to talk about session length as well in a minute. But that's one of the ways we can do it is through convictions. Now, one of the things that Matt Colville talked about is that in old D&D, there was other different ways that people got encouraged to do things. One of the things he talked about is that their player characters weren't actually that powerful. When they leveled up, there wasn't much things that you were given, but they're encouraged to go into the woods and go into these dungeons to find cool magic items, because that's where the magic items were. That's where the loot was. Additionally, the way that they leveled up was by getting experience, but the way you got experience was through gold. Okay. And that's the kind of the basis. The experience system is kind of the basis for most RPGs today. In fact, we still see it in video games. That's kind of based on RPGs in tabletop role-playing games. But Savage Worlds doesn't really have an experience system. If you look at the latest edition of Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, you talk about when are they supposed to advance. It's basically what's called milestone, or just when you choose to. When the GM decides it seems appropriate to give them a level up, give them a level up. Now, there is some guidance around how often that you should level up, and I think that really depends on a lot of factors. How long is your game going to go? Is this a campaign? Is this an adventure? What level are they starting at? What rank are they starting at? What rank do you want them to reach? How often do you want them to advance? How long are your games? There's a lot of different factors that kind of go into that decision, and that's always going to be a problem that you have to face if you're not using like a experience system with where you have to overcome some sort of obstacle or whatever. And one of the problems I think a lot of players in other games have is that there's not a clear rule for making sure that experience is given for other things other than combat. Is that just encourages murder hobos, right? If the only way you gain experience is by killing things, you just want to kill everything so that you can level up faster. That's going to be a problem, right? We don't want that. That's not kind of usually, as for me, maybe that's what you want in your games, or at least for me in my games, that's not usually the behavior I want. I want my players to be heroes in some sense. I want them to be going out and doing good things. I want them to be engaging in social conflicts. I want them to be in chases, maybe running away from things, that kind of stuff. So what is a way that we can kind of handle this? Since Savage Worlds doesn't have experience, right? Well, as I said, yes, Savage Worlds Adventure Edition does not have experience, but historically, Savage Worlds has had an experience system. In fact, it only got removed in Adventure Edition, and in all the previous versions of Savage Worlds, they had an experience system. In fact, it was pretty much the exact same across the board. I checked all of the rulebooks, both the original book, the revised book, the Explorer's book, the deluxe book, the Deluxe Explorer's book. All of them had this experience system, and it was only removed in Adventure Edition in favor of Milestone. Now, generally speaking, I think Milestone is the way to go. I think that's actually the exact way that you should probably go, especially if you're an experienced GM and you don't have a problem with encouraging your players. But I think if you have a group that you want to move along, this experience system might be the thing for you. In fact, it's one of the things I miss the most about Venture Edition from the previous editions. And I think it's extremely helpful for giving guidance and encouragement to players to push them in the right direction. So here's what it is. I'm going to go ahead and read for you the rules for experience from the Deluxe Explorers Edition. Advancement. At the end of each game session, which at this point they say usually 4 to 6 hours of gaming, which is not how long my games go. My games are usually like weekly games are 2 hours each. Both games are 2 hours. We don't play 4 to 6 hours. The only time I ever done that was I did it once, one Saturday a month. We would get together and play 6 hours. 4-hour weekly sessions is not a thing that I have ever seen in my life. At least personally, right? Maybe you do it. That's great. I'm glad. I'm extremely happy for you. Like, seriously, that's awesome. But 4 to 6 hours seems a bit much. Anyways, at the end of each game session, the GM awards 1 to 3 experience points to everyone in the group based on these guidelines. 1, the group accomplished little or had very short session. So maybe my sessions are too short. 1 point. Okay. 2 points. The group had more successes than failures. Okay, so we generally did a good job and we're moving forward. 3, the group succeeded greatly and their adventure had a significant impact on the overall story. And that's it. 1, 2, or 3 experience. How many experience do you need to level up? 5. That's 5 points to do to advance. Now, one of the things to note is that advances in Savage Worlds compared to other games like D&D, and I had to bring this up to our new GM in for our one game because she's never GM'd Savage Worlds before, only has DM'd D&D, is that Savage Worlds advances, generally speaking, don't make your character a whole lot more powerful compared to level ups in 5e. So I think they come more often in Savage Worlds because there's not really a big power bump like there tends to be in other systems. But 5 points, that's all you need. So theoretically, you could play 2 sessions and be leveled up and be all set. And in the right situation, you could level up twice, like 2 weeks in a row. If you get to, say, 4 points and the GM awards you 3 and then award you another 3 next week, and 2 weeks in a row, you could get advances. And I think what's nice about this this award system is that it awarding players for kind of moving the story along. Now, you have to kind of like decide how you're going to read these guidelines, but that's kind of like how I tend to read them. Is that it's about how the players kind of engage with the game and move the things along and stay engaged, stay motivated, and are curious, and kind of start moving themselves. So I don't have to push them, right? Ideally, I don't want to be pushing my players in certain directions or pushing them at all to do anything. When players naturally choose to do things and naturally seek after things and actually kind of move the story along, we're all going to have a better time and we're going to enjoy the game more. And I think this system helps award players to kind of move that game along. So in the GM game, the game that I'm not GMing, but the game that someone else is GMing, I told them about this award system for experience and told them, hey, here's how I do it. Here's how I think it'd be helpful for you, because she wants a very story-driven game that's going to be driven by us, the players, and it's going to be a little more political intrigue. And this is the system that she decided that she's going to use to kind of, especially as a new player, a new GM who doesn't know Savage Worlds as well, this is the system that she's using to help encourage us as players to move the game along. And I think it worked really well this past week because we did a lot of role playing. In fact, I think there was only 2 die rolls at all, which for some people that's not enough. And that's one of the things we did kind of bring up. It's like, hey, it'd be nice if you ask for more rolls. But honestly, she's a rules light kind of GM. She doesn't really care. She'd rather just have some good role playing experiences instead. And that's fine. Obviously, we want to make sure everyone's having fun. But I think that as she kind of gets used to the system, it'll be fine. But she enjoys this system, and we enjoy the system for giving experience because it helps encourage us and give us very clear guidelines on helping to move the story along and not just sit back and twiddle our thumbs, right? Now, the system is more subjective, right? The GM is the one who's in charge of deciding that you moved forward or you didn't really move forward. And you know, 3 points, maybe you find out you start giving out 3 points and you're like, okay, maybe this is happening so much. Maybe the players are so engaged all the time that we need to bring back how much experience we're giving. Maybe we need to dial it down and be okay. Maybe start doing 2 experience, and if you exceed what's been normal, giving 3. That's up to the GM to decide, and so it's something that we're always going to have to balance, right? In this kind of more subjective system. That's true in Milestone too. In the Milestone system, you have to decide when do you want to give systems for points, or when do you want to give an advance to players. So that's another thing that I want to talk about there, and just kind of talking about how much I really enjoyed the XP system and kind of how I missed it. Now, I know that a lot of people don't necessarily agree with me on that particular question, or on that topic of like, hey, most people generally think that was a good thing to remove. I do think it'd been nice to keep in the book as a optional rule, as something that people can use if they want to, and kind of give guidance to newer players on how often to level up, and give advances to their party members. So that's my thoughts. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over now to look over the comments and see what you all had to say about my maybe controversial topic, and as well as the topic of what are some unique ways that you reward your players. So Tyler Childers said that he likes to use adventure cards for the rewards and incentive, and I think that's actually a really good reward system as well. Adventure cards are pretty powerful. I've had the base rules for adventure cards, not from the core rulebook, but from the adventure cards themselves. The rules for adventure cards say that you're supposed to give them each player at the beginning of each session one card for each rank. And they can use, I think it's like one card per session. And personally, I found that to be a bit too powerful because often, especially in my games, because I only go for 2 hours, that one card usage in a 2-hour game might be the only combat we have that game, and we're just blowing that that PC out, or that NPC out of the water. Take a drink. And so I've been exploring other ways to use adventure cards. One of the things I've been doing is, or I started doing, is just giving them one card to the players, and they have to use that card before they can get another one. So they get a card that they can't really use or don't find an opportunity to use. But I do like the idea of getting them as incentives, and I think we have to figure out a good incentive for that. Let's see here. Let's see here. Peter says there's so many rewards. I can't highlight these, unfortunately, because StreamYard is not seeing my comments for some reason. There's so many rewards in Savage Worlds that I feel allow for more dynamic character and story development than XP-based systems. Yeah. And I think the reward systems like Conviction and Benny's definitely give players more options, right? And that's one of the things that's very interesting. But I think a lot of players are, at least I think, my opinion, is that a lot of players are motivated by advancement. That advancement is like, one of the things they ask at the end of, like people ask in the session, do we level up? Do we level up? And this gives us one, it gets kind of avoids that conversation, but also gives the GM at the end of the session an overall, like, let's look at the whole entire session, basically giving them an opportunity to rate what they saw, and give feedback, right? Basically think of it like the GM's version of Stars and Wishes, which I also encourage people to do, because I think it gives good feedback. And personally, when I used this system back when I did actually use Deluxe Explorers Edition for my what was the, not Interface Zero, that's the Cyberpunk one, was the one Last Parsec. When I did my Last Parsec game, I would award players an average of 2 points, but I reward them 1 sometimes, and I would say why, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense, like, we agree. And that's what you should expect, right? It should be, players should, if they get 1 or 2 or whatever, they should understand why they got that and be in agreement generally. Sometimes sometimes that's fine. If the players wanted to have a good game where they didn't get a lot done, but they had fun anyways, that's what's more important, right? But it does at least say, hey, yeah, you didn't do as much. We're not going to kind of give you, I'm not going to give you a level up next week because we didn't really kind of like move things along. And as long as they're going to have fun, that's fine. But at the same time, we're trying to, are trying to award a certain behavior. And what is that behavior that we're trying to award in the game? Playing to the story is one of those behaviors that you want to have. Sometimes think of those episodes I didn't award players with more points. That kind of system usually was those kind of sessions were usually like sessions where we did a lot more shopping, or some sort of, like, you think of it as episodic, it was a side episode, some sort. It was a filler episode, a beach episode, if you will. So there was usually things like that. We just didn't really get anything accomplished. I guess beach episodes can get things accomplished. Anyways, there'd be some sort of side thing that we would do that the GM was usually, or sorry, that where we didn't really do much. So it's just not a problem, but that also means that we're not going to like advance you as much. Looking through here, going back over here. Pierre says bennies blow new Satchels players away, especially when they are given them for interesting role play. Seen this really encourage new players and lean into the hindrances. Yes, 100%. I think, and I don't think this the experience system is something that we need to worry about for new players as much. Although the bennies thing is, well, sorry, how do I want to put this? Bennies are absolutely a game changer to people who are coming from other systems, and for the most part, are the way that we want to be doing it. The thing is, I think bennies are the way that we can encourage small moments or certain good moments inside of a game. But I think there's a level in which the game overall needs an award as well for like this session overall was really good, even if there wasn't like anything that stuck out to the GM during the game that to award bennies for it. And I think that's a little bit of that's the giving out of bennies is something that I think certain players like or certain GMs like myself have issues with remembering to do unless the roleplay was extremely good. And maybe that's all what we're supposed to be. Times it's extremely good, but sometimes we can have a really good session without having any specific thing that we thought was Benny worthy, right? And so I think there's just a way of encouraging bennies. I think are good rewards for individual things that happen inside the game. I think experience points the way that the old Sadrels Deluxe Edition and all the previous editions did it. That was rewarding the group as a whole for doing a good job working together and moving the story along and having a good session. So instead of a good interaction, just a whole entire session of good gaming, right? I think that's something that we want to be able to award as well. Let's see here. When D&D party encounters the same threat, we know what they have to do to it. Right. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, maybe I missed one other thing. When Sadrel's party runs into a very dangerous encounter, they have almost unlimited options in terms of dealing with it and can lead to advancement. Yes. When D&D party encounters the same threat, we know that they have to do to advance. The thing I think I'm trying to say about the Sadrel's advancement is that it's usually because the way Savage Worlds does advancement is not experience based or not like based on any particular event. It's more at the whim of the GM. And I think that when it's more at the whim of the GM, they decide it's been. I think that what GMs tend to default to is okay. It's been this many sessions since then. We are at this point in the story. Okay, here's an advance. And that's again, if you are a experienced enough GM to do that well, that's good. But I think there's also a help that the experience system has from previous editions to, again, award players for sessions and also to ensure that you aren't forgetting about advances because some of us are forgetful and don't think about it. Pierce says, I don't consider real world time when factoring in advancements at all. Real world time, like how many sessions? I think is the kind of the question there. That kind of comes up to the other factor that we have to kind of consider with advances in general, whether we do an experience system or not, is the time or like how do I say this? Some campaigns run for years. Some campaigns run for a few months. What are your goals for that campaign? What do you want the players to reach, right? Personally, again, in my experience though with the experience system, I found that it was extremely helpful for keeping players on pace, for moving them up, and again rewarding them because they felt like they did a good job. Otherwise, I think my games I ran it, they would have fell kind of behind because they went pretty quickly, and if I didn't award them points that I may have definitely forgotten or about different things, and they may have fallen behind, or they I mean, it's just fall behind. Maybe go and move on to here. Just clarify. I don't mean, but what I meant by real world time is I don't care if we played for 1 hour or 8 hours. Doesn't factor into advancement. If nothing's accomplished, no advancement. Yeah, and I think that's yes, nothing accomplished, no advancement. But when did when does the advancement come? And because so you accomplish something that's great, but maybe didn't accomplish really enough to really warrant an advance. And when you have to like factor in like stuff previously, I don't know. It for me, it just gives me a very simple, for me, again, and you don't want to use it, don't use it. For me, what I liked about the experience system is that it gave me a way to ensure, again, one, reward players, but two, to ensure that I am keeping a better track of my players' advancement and making sure that it is happening when they do things, when they accomplish stuff. If we have five, I mean, with that encouragement, I would imagine that 5 sessions of them accomplishing nothing is not going to happen. They're going to go, yeah, okay, yeah, we only got one experience. I like advancing. It's a reward to the player, not necessarily a reward to the character, but a reward to the player that they really want to get. And again, I think that just for me, it just encourages the session overall rather than and without this. Basically, how to say it? Yeah, here's a way of putting it. I think it rewards players for sessions without, because really the only thing otherwise is advance. That's how you award a session is advance. It allows players to work towards something, work towards an advance, know that they are let them know that they are pushing towards that advance. And they know that they are guaranteed it when they accomplish a certain amount of stuff. I think it's especially if you're only 2 points, 3 points away from advance, you're going to be encouraged to be like, okay, I really want to make sure that we play this session well enough and kind of move the story along and stuff, and have, be engaged, be on point, be curious, be motivated. They're motivated at this point to engage the game and reach that what they have deemed to be a advance without worrying about in-game consequences. What I mean by that is that they don't have to kill a bunch of guards to get the experience. They don't have to do particular things. It's just engaging with the game and staying motivated. Five sessions, Pierre says, 5 sessions of accomplishing nothing is probably the GM's fault, not the players. I think it really depends on the players. I think it really does depend on the players. I think that you can have, and I don't want to say that it could be the GM's fault, because, one, like, we have GMs that, there are plenty of GMs out there who are, even if it is the GM's fault, that conversation needs to happen, right? And I think this kind of gives a good kind of segue for people, and we don't have to have a ton of experience system to it. But it allows the GM to kind of give a reason for why they feel the game hasn't gone anywhere. And it also allows for the players to kind of go through that as well. So at the very least, I think at the very least, it prompts conversation where a lot of new players, not just Savage, but new players of TTRPGs in general, can fall flat and not communicate and miss out on things, because a lot of new players don't start by watching YouTube videos on how to play games. They don't start by watching GM tip videos. Usually they're going to start by just playing, and then they find out later, if they really enjoy it, they're going to kind of push forward later. So I'm looking through here. I get your guys' comments. I can't tell if Lily's just behind. Okay. I would. Sorry, Lily. I was reading your message. Peter, so just make sure you understand your comment. You think the topic is, whose fault is it if things don't progress, or how much does a GM push progress? I think that is a topic we could definitely talk about for a future show. So make a note of that at some point. But I think I said all I've desired to say about the experience system. Basically, just that I do miss it. I think I found it very helpful for myself in my games. when I was doing Adventure Edition, and the game I'm currently doing, which is the Rise of the Rune Lords box set. They tell you when to give advances, just because to make kind of like, hey, okay, you should be advancing here in these points, which is basically a milestone, but it's like built-in milestone, so I don't have to guess when the milestone is. It's like, yep, do it here, do it here, do it here. That's good. But you can definitely talk about how much does a GM push progress. Doom says the rule of thumb I heard is that for the first set of ranks, every session should come with an advance in season, every other session, and then sessions per rank. And so, Doom, I think that's the problem I have with that approach is that it. And again, this is even for every approach that we're going to come with Savage Worlds. It's going to depend on what kind of game you're running. Are you running a game that's supposed to last for a couple of years? Are you running a game that's only lasting for months? And how quickly do you want them to advance? When I ran ETU, ETU was also a very clear, like, you advance this point, this point, this point. So, you advance, you advance 4 times a school year. So you advance 4 times in your freshman year, 4 times in your, which for me ended up being, we did 8 adventures per school year. I think that's what it was. I think it was 8 adventures per school year, so 4 adventures per per semester. So yeah, it's a interesting topic. That's kind of my thoughts about the experience system, though. I think it's helpful. Pierce says, I think the overall guidelines were helpful for mage hands. Good. And actually just clarifying 3 sessions per advancement when you are a veteran, etc. Great. Well, there's more I'd like to talk about and maybe have to dive into. I initially started when I firstly scheduled this live stream. I was going to just talk about experience and how I miss that system, and it kind of thought about it, and it kind of evolved into this: how do we reward players mentality as far as keeping them engaged. And I think that bennies are a good thing, but yeah, I've said what I said. At this point, thank you for joining me tonight. I look forward to talking to you all next week, and we'll have to have a discussion at some other point as well. You all have a great night, and I will see you next week.